Hey guys, Lance Martin with the Martin Group, and you are back for our in-studio 2026 real estate market forecast, our in-studio interviews. We have Manfred Keil back. How the heck are you?
Good to see you.
It's been a couple of years. When were you last in studio with us?
More than that. I think it was right post-COVID.
Post-COVID, so 2022, 2023 in that neighborhood?
And we didn't know at the time how that was going to work itself out.
Of course
right?
not.
So this must have been before April or May. So it was during the worst time.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And we were sort of speculating, where is this going to go?
Where are we going to go?
Yeah.
Well, before we get to where we're going to go, let's do proper introductions. So I was teasing Manfred about, I don't know how you put this on a business card, so let's go ahead and do the setup. So you're the chief economist for the Inland Empire Economic Partnership, which is that beautiful group that we've got in the Inland Empire, which we love so much. Associate Director, Lowe Institute Political Economy. Robert Day School of Economics and Finance at, of course, Claremont McKenna College.
Yes.
And which we love Claremont McKenna College because I have an office.
I know.
Right down the street from you where we get to have lunch periodically.
Exactly.
So,
it was a short walk.
It is. So anyway, that's a mouthful. And there's probably a couple other things on there that you're associated with. But you just did your annual event for the Inland Empire Economic Partnership, February 17th. By the way, today is February 26th, so 10 days or so ago.
Yeah.
You did that, where was that, in Ontario at the Convention Center?
Yeah, it was Ontario Convention Center.
I heard you had a big audience. Tell me all about it.
We had 500 people, paying people, and it was more general. It wasn't just the economic forecast. So there was a panel before the economists spoke, and it was a panel of health insurance people, okay, or health industry people, right? The former president of La Verne University, she was the MC for that part of the event. And so she looked at three, or talked to three people who are involved in the health industry, because the health industry has become so central for the Inland Empire in the sense that if you put San Bernardino County and Riverside County together, it is now the largest employer in terms of the share of employment.
It's both counties?
Both counties
and
together.
Of course, and combined. All right. Yeah, makes sense.
And so therefore, given that we depend in terms of employment so much on the health industry at the moment, and how much it is under the threat in the coming years in terms of cuts in Medi-Cal and so forth, right? It's really an important, it's basically the major employment driver at the moment in the Inland Empire.
Right. Above and beyond, is logistics, is the shine off of that,
so,
or what's going on?
Well, it's interesting.
Talk about it so much, but I don't hear quite as much about it anymore.
Yeah, so there's three, or how do you say three? There was a movie where somebody went like that and he got shot or so, I think. There are three major industries in the Inland Empire.
Okay.
And San Bernardino County differs a little bit from Riverside County, but basically the three are the same. So they are the health industry,
yep,
they are local government, which basically is all local education or public education,
okay,
right? And the third one, as you said, is the logistics industry. And the two counties differ in the sense that in San Bernardino County, logistics is now the largest employer. Every fifth person works, 20% of employment is in logistics.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the percentage, 20?
20% in San Bernardino County.
Okay.
In Riverside County, it's a little bit less. But again, I mean, there has been, I looked at some slides where we compared employment shares in 2005 with the current ones in 2025-26, right? And it's like a meteoric rise,
yeah,
of the logistics industry. In 2005,
yep,
you could ignore it, right?
Well, I don't even know from your average consumer's perspective, unless you were in that business, you didn't know anything about it.
And again, coming back to COVID, when we were talking about, right, the major increase in COVID in terms of employment was of course in the logistics industry, because we all changed, exactly, we changed our behavior, right? Yeah, as consumers then in around 22 switched back from durable goods consumptions back to services. that's when we got what is called now the freight recession, right?
Yeah.
But the freight recession, it's an unfortunate term, because if you look at logistics employment, right, it went up like this,
Yep.
and now it's coming here. And so the freight recession is that little bit here, right?
Okay.
So in other words, yes, there has been a decline in logistics employment.
Well, didn't you do a paper on that a year or so ago? I thought you sent me something specifically on.
Yeah.
Was that you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I did. And just to point out that you're really missing the point if you just focus on 2022 and down, right? Or since then. So back to the point. The Inland Empire really depends on those three industries.
Yeah.
And if you take employment gains from a year ago in the health industry and in public education, if you take that away, Inland Empire employment would have gone down, right? Meaning the other industries, we're talking manufacturing, construction, you name it, they're all losing jobs, right? So that to me is a stunner. So if you take one of these three pillars away, the house is going to come down.
Yeah. Well, what would you take away? Where healthcare is not going to get any smaller, is it?
Well, it's if you take away Medicaid and Medi-Cal,
how are you going to do that?
Trump is going to do that with
people aren't
President
going to get
Trump.
sick anymore?
No, they are, but they won't have the expenditures through Medi-Cal to pay for much of their. So you're absolutely right. The demand is going to be there, but the money to support it is not. Public education, that's interesting.
How are we going to get rid of that? That's not going away.
Because, well, if you look at the age profile, and you look at 5 to 18-year-olds, it is shrinking year after year, not only in the Inland Empire.
Oh, you just mean the birth rate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, not even the birth rate, just the percent of students who are 5 to 18-year-olds. It's shrinking every year.
Okay.
Right?
Well, isn't that the birth rate? Isn't that just kind of
That's
like
part of it,
okay.
right?
All right. At some point, they get to school.
What I'm saying is
they don't get to school.
Well, and it did feed into that already, right? So we got a shrinking part there. And this year, the LA Unified School District got away with not cutting that many jobs because they had funds from COVID left over that they're running down.
Right.
But this is the last year where they can do that. So after that, they will have to let go people, right? And then the third one, logistics, well, you've got tariffs.
Yeah.
And so all those three are under threat, right? And again, this wouldn't be so bad if you had some alternative. The problem with the Inland Empire is that they've, for a long time, focused on one industry, right? And that industry has changed over the years. For example, in the 80s and 90s, it was aerospace and defense, right?
Yep.
And then comes the peace dividend. And the peace dividend for the Inland Empire was not good, right? So airbase shutting down and so on and so forth.
Realignment of March Air Force Base, Norton shut down.
Exactly, right? And then what did we do?
It's so funny, I forget about that.
Yeah, no.
Well, I remember the realignment of March, because March is still pretty big and active, but it's not an active duty base anymore, it's a reserve base. But then Norton, that one was, that's done. I know it's an airport now, but it's certainly different.
Yeah. And many of the aerospace industries, right?
Yep.
And then what did we switch to around the millennium? Housing.
Oh, construction, housing.
Right.
Yeah. When are we going to switch to that again? When are we going to start building?
Well,
I don't want to just deflect your thought process, but we are going to get to housing in a little bit.
Absolutely.
But continue on, and we'll tie into it later.
So then we focus on housing, and then comes the housing bubble, right? And let's face it, we were one of the epicenters of the burst of the housing bubble, right?
Yep.
And then we come out of it, and what do we focus on now? Logistics, right? And the question is that going to last? I mean, so far, the good news is that if you think about the ports of LA and Long Beach, they still see record year after record year in terms of imports. And just to make sure that people understand it, 40% of all U.S. imports, not California, of all U.S. imports come through two ports. That's Long Beach and Los Angeles, right?
It's so funny. I always consider that like one port. I know it's two, but still, I got it.
And I mean, that's after all why The Economist refers to the Inland Empire as the biggest warehouse in the world,
Yep.
right? Because you can't store things down there. So what do? We ship them
Yep.
out here.
Yep.
And then from here, we organize things and ship them out again, right? So the bottom line is, if you have heavy tariffs that cut down on imports, then of course you will cut down on the business. And on top of it, there are some other nasty developments like AB 98.
Okay.
Was a bill that basically restricts the building of warehouses and even renewal of warehouses. So there are some attacks on that, right? And it's basically from environmental groups.
Yep.
And no one is denying. Right? My daughter had asthma. I know what this is about. No one is denying that there is pollution from logistics, But as with many economic facts, what we need to do is we need to compare the costs and the benefits, right? And if you just look at the costs, then you get the wrong picture. I'll give you an example. In the United States, 40,000 people die every year on the road. It's road fatalities.
Yep.
We can look that up,
Yep.
right? It's no doubt. I have a single policy that will reduce that to zero, right?
What's that? No driving? Eliminate vehicles.
Driving at 5 miles an hour
Okay, there
on
you
every
go.
road,
There
right?
you go.
And then you say that to someone, and they will say, "Oh, this is ridiculous." And I say, "Okay, are you willing to let 40,000 people die?"
Right.
And the answer is yes.
Right.
You are, unfortunately, right? It's the same thing when we had COVID. Some states shut down completely. Others didn't. South Carolina never shut down at all. What did they have? The 7th highest mortality rate, right? We're not surprised. But then the governor of New York saying losing a single life is not acceptable, right? That's just not how we look.
There's always trade-offs.
No,
Always
it's not how we look at costs and benefits, right? So back to the Inland Empire. The house is on 3 pillars.
Yep, which is your, I guess your title, your
the
subtitle.
Talk. Yeah, and if you take one away, then in the short run, you've got problems.
So is that what that is? House on 3 stilts?
Yeah.
Is that the stilts?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The 3 industries.
I now I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's the short-term problem for the Inland Empire. Then there is a long-term problem. So if you think about, and I think this is interesting for the housing industry, if you think about Inland Empire, let's make a number, 2026, 2046, 20 years, right? So meaning that people who are born now, they will be in their 20s. What is it going to look like? And I think people will have to start to focus more and more on that rather than next year, right? And particularly the housing industry, right? And here are 4 things that you need to know about the Inland Empire. It's very straightforward. Number 1, it's by now the 12th largest metropolitan statistical area in the United States.
Number 12.
Number 12. There are 385 of those. The biggest is New York. The second biggest one is the greater Los Angeles, which is Orange County and Los Angeles County, right? And then you go down yada, 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 and you come to number 10, which is Phoenix, Mesa. Number 11 is Boston, Cambridge. And number 12 is the Inland Empire. We just passed San Francisco.
Right.
So we're bigger now in terms of population. Okay, so the bottom line is, first fact, lots of people.
Okay, people. Yep.
Fact number 2 is the amount of commuting. So every day, 350,000 people, 350,000.
Yep.
That's the size of the Coachella Valley.
Yeah.
Or the high desert.
They're on the 91, they're on the 215.
Or
You
the
just did
10.
it. You just, we're in Canyon Lake. You came from Upland. But drive the way, you drove by a whole bunch of logistic warehouses on the
Absolutely.
way down here.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get here? Hour plus?
Yeah, hour 20.
Yeah. Yep.
And so 350,000 either commute on the 10, the 210, or the 91.
Yep.
Very few on the 15 into San Diego, right? But most of them into the coastal areas. That's 350,000, right? So that's fact number 2. Fact number 3 is that the education level of residents in the Inland Empire is fairly low.
Yep.
In the sense that if you look at the percent of 25 to 45-year-olds who have a bachelor's degree or more, that's 27% in the Inland Empire. Compared to California and the US, it's 37%.
Oh, honestly, I thought it would have been higher than 37.
Yeah,
so,
and
okay.
Phoenix is also 37, right?
Okay.
So that's important, because if you don't have the human capital in the area, then the better paying firms won't come, right? And then comes the fact number 4, which is your baby, which is housing, right?
Yeah.
And there, why do people live in the Inland Empire? Why don't they live in coastal areas? Because they cannot afford the kind of houses that they want, that they can afford here, right? So let's face it, none of us like to commute. We hate it, right? So why do we do it? Well, we do it because the better paying jobs are in the coastal areas.
Yep.
We can't afford the houses there, so we live out here, and we're willing to go through that pain. Which I live in Upland. Upland is 37 miles from Upland into downtown LA. Exactly.
Okay.
So if you drive 60 miles an hour, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. You should be there in 37 minutes, right?
It's what, 2 hours?
Exactly. If you drive on a Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, it's 2 hours.
But this is not a new problem.
No.
My family, Lakewood, Long Beach was home when I grew up in Lakewood, Long Beach. My mom and dad, my wife and I, my in-laws, my brother and sister-in-law came to Moreno Valley in '87.
Yeah.
And my mom, well, several letters, but my mom and my father-in-law come to mind, drove basically back into the greater Long Beach area for 10 years. And it was exactly the same story then. This was no toll roads,
but
no fast track. No, I do a lot of driving, but my driving is a little bit different. But whenever I'm on the 91, for example, heading into Long Beach or whatever, I genuinely feel sorry for those people.
Yeah.
Especially during commuting times. I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't do this every day.
And so
But
all of
still
us.
do it. This is 30 years of this.
Sure.
40 years of this.
But the point is, your parents would have preferred if they could have had that same job that they had in the coastal areas. If they could have had that job in, in Riverside or. So let's face it. If we want to solve the problem of congestion, what we have to do is we have to find a way to get better paying firms to move out here, but they won't come unless they can find people who they can hire.
So you've been saying for a while, because I've heard you say this before, and I don't think you're out on a limb here.
No.
A big challenge with that is just the educational level of the worker in the Inland Empire.
Yeah. So now,
I thought we were going to go a little different direction, but I should have remembered the setup, because the setup was the education level of the individual in the Inland Empire.
Yeah, and there's a study by ADP. These are the firm that does employment data and so forth.
They do my payroll.
Yeah, and what they did is they looked at 115 MSAs out of the 308, namely the biggest ones, right? And they looked at what would it take for 20 to 29-year-olds to settle. And they looked at 3 variables. They looked at wages, affordability, and employment opportunity, right? And so, what are some of the places that ranked at the top? Austin was like number 4, right? And North Carolina, that research triangle, was like number 1, right? The Inland Empire came in 113 out of 115.
Okay, so we're number 12 in the, what are we
in terms of population size.
And
but
number 100
out of 115, 113 out of 115, in terms of attracting 20 to 29
They rated
year olds.
115 total?
They looked at 115, which means there's 383.
You had to cut them off somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was like 1 million and more people.
Oh, that's painful to hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, so what I'm saying to you, it's perhaps not. We do have educational institutions in the end. We've got UC Riverside, we've got Cal State University San Bernardino, we have in your old neighborhood Redlands, right? We've got the Claremont colleges at the border. We've got Laverne. We've got education institutions that graduate people. The trick then is
to keep them here.
Exactly.
Right.
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 And that has to do, among one of the three variables, affordability.
Yep.
And that's where you and I talked about this before. It's as remarkable as it is that, yes, the Inland Empire is more affordable compared to coastal areas, right? But the average housing price in San Bernardino, and out of the two counties, San Bernardino has the lower housing prices,
Yep.
right? The average housing price in San Bernardino is the average of the U.S. housing
US,
prices.
right.
Right? So if you say affordability, yeah, maybe in Southern California you get some people to come to the Inland Empire, but you want them, if they graduate from here, you want them to stay.
Right.
And for that they need to have better jobs, they need to have, or higher paying jobs, they need to have job offers, and they need to have housing. That is affordable. Right?
Yeah. Well, I thought we were going to go a little different direction, but this is perfect, by the way. On your house, the house on three stilts, that was those employment.
Yeah.
I almost was thinking, wait a minute, what's he saying? Where the housing market or the housing
Yeah.
world is on three stilts? Because I think the housing. It's so funny. I've been saying this for a long time, and I always catch myself about my industry is broken, and then I immediately need to do a timeout. Because I'm not talking about our price is going to collapse or even about affordability, which we can talk about all those things. I'm just talking about the business that I'm in. Owning and operating a brokerage has
Right.
got some challenges that's broken. But there are parts of the housing market that are broken, our ability to build housing, and this is not new. I mean, I'm 59 years old. I've been going to the California Association of Realtors, and you quote some of their data from their research team up there in your report from last week. But I've been going up there since I was 25.
Yeah.
And listening to smart people, economists and others, researchers saying we're not building enough houses in California. And I honestly almost stopped asking the question. Okay, well we know that. What can we do? You're CEQA and regulatory and entitlements and all this sort of stuff, but we really haven't done anything to build.
No.
And we're building some, but we are really, really good at building high density apartment buildings, multifamily stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm almost. It seems like a question with no answer, and I don't know that you can answer it.
Well,
So how are we going to build more houses?
All that I can look at the moment is housing starts.
Okay,
Right.
And they're improving. No,
Improving, but
But-
at a very
Right,
low
right.
level, right?
Yeah.
So it's not there. So what is it going to take to get more housing supply, right? Well, hopefully, I mean, as you know, mortgage rates have now gone below 6%.
improved at 6. Okay, I'll take that.
But that's different from 7 point something, right? In terms of monthly payments.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
But is it enough for those people who, during COVID, got interest rates of what, 2-3%?
Yeah, well, you know, it's
Is
funny.
it enough?
I have a little card in here that talks about that, and it's been,
Yeah.
you know, it's impossible to see without.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to put my glasses on, but yeah, today we're at, again, February 26, 2026. We're right at 6%. We've been
Yeah.
bouncing around. A year ago, we were a point higher. 2 years ago, at our peak, we were 7.5,
Yeah.
7.75. But you know, getting back to that COVID era, you know, sub 3%.
Yeah.
And you know, there's been tons and tons of talk about it. I hear someone talk about it on TV, and I kind of roll my eyes. But then I listen. I'm like, yeah, well, they're saying the same thing that I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you've got all this inventory locked in with sub 3%. They don't want to sell. They don't have to sell. And we had ridiculous equity.
Yeah.
You know, I shoot in Adam's studio here in Canyon Lake, and Adam could testify. For the last 3 years, I've been talking about how the market is frozen.
Yeah.
In part by the interest rates and affordability. It's all tied together.
Yeah.
I think if we can sustain a 6% interest rate, or we don't have to go below 5, but if we can get in the mid 5s, below 6 for a sustained period of time, I do think it will drive some additional interest, no pun intended. But you know, we've kind of done this before. We've knocked on this 6% door again,
Yeah.
and then something triggers, and then we're back up at 6.5 or 7 or 10-year
You're right.
bond or something crazy. So, do you? I honestly, I didn't see it in your report. Do you even have a call on interest rates improving, or on the Fed, or on our
So our call is that you know, with Kevin Walsh coming in, replacing Jerome Powell, that there will be enough political pressure to lower interest rates twice this year.
Is that good? Selfishly, I might say, maybe it creates.
Yeah,
housing,
I mean,
housing demand.
So the Federal Reserve has a dual mandate, right? It's supposed to control inflation and to do policies that promote employment. Right? And the Federal Reserve has now for 5 years missed the 2% target. 5 years. This is like parents who will say, "You do this, I'm going to punish you."
So,
and they say this
do you blame that on Powell and the Reserve? Do you lay blame there, or
they just, yeah, maybe.
okay?
And so whether or not interest rates will come down really depends on what the inflation rate will do this year. And it's been sort of coming down towards that 2% target, right? But now we're going to have big tax rebates, which will be good for consumers. They will be able to spend more, right? But that's not going to get inflation more under control. So my concern is that the Federal Reserve perhaps will not lower the interest rate more than 2 times, right? So, for example, we've got financial markets that do bets in terms of at the March meeting, the bet right now is a less than 5% probability that they will lower interest rates in March. No.
And if they would do it, it'd be 25 basis points.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know if that moves the needle.
And the earliest it will happen is in the summer.
Right.
And then maybe one more time. And if it's up to Kevin Walsh, if he can if he can convince others to go along with President Trump's preferences, then maybe we'll get 3.25 reductions.
Right.
But that's it. More likely, it's like 2. And how much that is going to do? That's a 0.5 percentage point, right?
Well, yeah, but
it's better than nothing.
Is that going to bring? Well, it's crazy. It'd be interesting. I'm going to send you my stuff because I'm sure you haven't seen this. There's a couple of other speakers. You know, Chris Thornburg with Beacon, of course, and I follow Bruce Norris. I don't know, the name probably should sound familiar to you. He was and still is he's an Inland Empire kind of guru in the investment world, single family investments. He does a market timing event. And Chris has a forecast. Now, it's based upon a whole bunch of stuff, which I'm going to ask you about in a minute. Excuse me, not Chris. Bruce has an interest rate forecast that drives interest rates like down to 1 to 2%.
By when?
A couple of years. But there's a big but. And it's interesting because you said a couple of things earlier, and I'm thinking, okay, when am I going to ask this question? Any concern about all of this discussion about artificial intelligence and displacing people? So, then let me give you the setup for Bruce Norris and his low, which, by the way, his thing is if we do see these interest rates down at 1 or 2%, it's not a good thing. It basically means that unemployment is up at 15% or higher.
Really?
And he's making the prediction. He'd be the first one to tell you that he doesn't know. Nobody knows what this AI is going to do. Adam sent me some stuff earlier today that says if it goes this way, nobody's going to have a job. No, it goes the other way. It's going to have some impact, but we're going to be fine. So have you guys done any analysis?
Yes.
On the AI? Okay, so what's going on? What's it going to do?
So here's what we see at the moment. GDP, which is the total value of all goods and services that we produce, right, has been going up at a fairly high rate.
Okay.
So in California, for example, in the third quarter of 25, which is the last data that we have for California, it went up by 4.3%, which is even higher than in the US, where it went up by 3.8%, right? At the same time, employment has not gone up.
Okay.
And so we refer to this as the jobless boom. So that's a takeoff on the term jobless recovery, which was, in following the housing bubble burst, where it took 7 years to get back to employment levels that we had in 2007, right?
Okay.
So this is a jobless boom, and the US has never seen this before, meaning output expands at a very high rate, but employment does not.
Correct.
And that is a function of AI, right?
So you say we've already seen it.
Well, it's already in the data, no doubt, right? So and that, in terms of short-term outlook, is something to really consider, meaning output will grow as a result of AI at fairly high rates, higher than what we're accustomed to, right? So we expect next year for the US to grow by 3.3%, which is higher than this year's 2.2%, right? But employment will not grow. And that is unusual, right? And that's a function of AI.
Yeah.
Right?
But do you subscribe? Because it seems like it's moving so fast. I mean, I've been preparing for our March 11th forecast now for a month. And in my business, there is a fear. I'm not afraid of it because I think there'll be such a small number of agents who will take advantage of it and 95% of them won't. But there is a fear that if you don't adopt the appropriate AI strategy as a real estate operator or an agent, it's going to impact you. It's going to be a big. But they've also said that about the real estate business for years. We're going to go the way of the travel agent. You know, the travel agent got replaced by Expedia and Travelocity or whatever. But I see it. I can see some areas of efficiencies. You know, there's an argument. It's very self-serving for real estate agents. Well, if you want to buy a house, you still want some sort of human body in that to show it, to inspect it, to do all the rest of that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of things within a real estate transaction that can be automated. A lot.
Let me say something about that specifically, since you brought it up. You know, AI or automation in general is not about replacing people. It's about replacing tasks.
Okay.
And for each profession, we can calculate the percent of AI replacing you, me, and so forth. They won't replace you 100%. But we know with accountants, that is one of the highest task replacements of over 95%, right? What are the lowest? Preaching. It's one of the lowest, like 5% of your tasks can be replaced, right?
I can't dial or replace my minister with AI?
No. And another low one is academics. It's like 17% of your tasks can be. What about on the medical
side? Let's go to that, because that's one of your 3 pillars.
Let me make one little joke on that.
Okay.
So my joke is, since academics and preaching are low, I'm safe because I preach economics.
Ah, well, there you go. I stepped on you. You were working on the joke, and we'll have to recut that whole section.
Yeah, okay.
I'm kidding. We'll leave that in.
But back to the point.
All right, I messed the setup.
It's meaning with you, there will be certain tasks that you're doing that AI will replace. But there are others, as you said, taking someone around a property, giving certain personal advice that cannot be replaced.
But what about on the medical side? What about on the education side? There's a lot. Matter of fact, I subscribe to them. There's a couple of educational programs you can sign up, and you pay $500 and you learn how to speak a lifetime of. Whether am I going to learn to speak Spanish? I have no idea. But it's kind of there. It's basically AI. It's been around forever.
I agree. But what did we learn in COVID? I mean, during COVID, my surprise was, we thought years ago that maybe lectures and so forth could just be replaced by students watching programs, right? And that seemed to have been a disaster in terms of schools and so forth, right? So we're learning. And I think it's the same with real estate. I mean, certain tasks will be replaced, but there are certain parts that of personal interaction that you cannot replace.
So to be determined, so the Bruce Norris call on interest rates, which is totally predicated on AI wiping out 15% of the jobs or more. So that's all. Chris Thornburg, I did my event, my timing of my event this last year was where I did it in September. So only 5 months ago, 6 months ago. And it was not part of his presentation deck, but in the Q&A, somebody had asked him afterward, where do I foresee interest rates? And Chris's response, I'm going to get it wrong a little bit, but it basically was, given certain factors in the future, debt and the foreign investment into our bond market and our, value of the dollar and all the rest of that sort of stuff, he said I could see 30-year fixed mortgage rates above 9%. Now the audience kind of gasped, and then he said, well, we've been there before. You know. Now he certainly didn't make that call in 2026. I don't think he suggested in 2027. But and frankly, since then, rates have improved. I mean, 5 months ago, we were 6.75, maybe
Yeah.
even bouncing on 7. So anyway, maybe you answered it and I didn't hear it. So do you guys have a call on long-term mortgage rates for the next 12 months, or
No, all that we have is a call on the federal funds rate,
on the Fed,
right?
which is a couple cuts.
which is either half a percentage point lower, or 50 basis points, or 75 basis points lower, right? And from there you can figure out the relationship between mortgage rates and the federal
Which
fund
would be
rate.
nominal. So
Yeah.
so if I'm interpreting your call correctly, based upon what I've seen, that would mean we would still have interest rates somewhere right around where they are right now, 6%,
Little bit lower.
maybe a little bit lower. But there's that whole spread thing
Yeah.
that it confounds me. Okay, so if in 2026 the Fed does what you indicate, which could be 2 25 basis point cuts, in theory we could see rates at 6 or maybe 6.75, maybe, or excuse me, 5.75, 5.5. Which, by the way, that's pretty consistent with Barry Habib. He runs a company called MBS Highway. MBS stands for mortgage-backed securities, and he tracks all the bond markets and all the rest. And that's kind of what he's calling. He's calling for somewhere in 2026 the rates to be in the mid-5s, give or take a bit, which seems reasonable. So, which, by the way, for the real estate market, if that's where we were, just steady Eddie, I would love that. I would think they would. It's the demand. I don't think the demand would go crazy, but I think we would see some people out there that says, hey, sub 6 is better than north of 7.
Yeah.
Maybe we see some more transactions. So, again, if it's in here, I might have missed it. One of the challenges, and we've touched on this, part of the reason I say my industry is broken, not the real estate market, is transaction volume. If you go back and you take a look at California Association of Realtor data, and you go back 25, 30 years, I'm going to get it off a little bit, but we were doing north of 420, 450,000 single-family homes sales per year, okay? Last year, 2025, the CAR and Jordan Levine is the economist over there, they closed the books at 270,000 units, okay? And by the way, the peak of 450, that was just kind of the average. That was just kind of what we did.
Yeah.
We did COVID, we did pretty well. But at any rate, 270,000 transactions. The forecast from California Association of Realtors forecast for 2026, 272,000. Basically the same. Yeah. So that's what's so painful from my perspective is, in our industry, which, by the way, it's not just real estate agents. You got mortgage brokers and escrow and title and that whole industry that revolves around a transaction, selling a house, Home Depot, I suppose. But it just, and part, I just think such a big part of the transaction volume suppression is 100% interest rates. But it's not so much that interest rates are bad today. It's not that, 6% is a horrible rate. You had all these people, myself included, who bought a house or refied a house and have a 3% or sub 3% rate. And I'm not selling that house to save my life.
No.
So I don't know what the solution to that is other than just building more houses and time.
Yeah.
Because over a period of time, people are going to die, people are going to get divorced, something's going to, and they're going, well, I don't want to get rid of that 3% rate.
Yeah.
But I got to. I'm selling.
But as you say, I mean, it's really a supply story.
It is,
isn't it?
It absolutely.
I mean, the demand is there, and that's why housing prices go up. By the way, Riverside County has a higher percent of construction, not surprisingly, than San Bernardino County, right? And but still, I mean, it's housing construction, housing starts that we need to see to improve to generate the excess supply that is not there because people are being unwilling to sell. Although, as you said, as interest rates come down, there will be more and more people who are willing to get out of these previously low interest rates that they had.
And obviously it makes the homes more affordable, but then there's this yin and yang. The rates are a little bit lower, the demand increases a little bit, and does that push values up a little bit? So we just end up with that. Do you have any data on the rental market?
No, no. So all that I can observe is some sort of general statements, but I don't really want to get into it.
It's fair.
That rents have not gone through the roof. That's for sure. They've increased marginally.
Yeah,
but,
well, depending upon where you're sitting, I mean, I don't know if I categorize them as going through the roof, but certainly yesterday or the day before, and we do a lot of property management.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if we've ever discussed that. We've been managing single-family rentals in the Inland Empire for 37, 38 years. My mom started rentals, so we to this day, it's a core piece of what we do. By the way, the rental market is not broken.
Yeah.
That side of my business is awesome. I love it. I was just talking to Chuck Whitehead. We're in Coldwell Banker Associated Brokerage's studio, and Chuck and I are both Coldwell Banker guys. And Chuck does property management. I do property management. And I don't know, I must just ooze excitement when I talk about our property management business, because Chuck didn't ask me the first thing he asked me isn't how I'm doing. He says, how's your property management doing?
Yeah.
Because he knows he's going to get a good response from me on that. And because it's almost the exact opposite of what we're seeing on the real estate sales and transaction side. But as far as the rental values, my God, Manfred, we were talking about this 2 days ago with my eviction attorney. He was sitting in that chair. Okay, take a 2-bedroom apartment, average apartment, city of Riverside, pre-COVID, maybe a little bit above average neighborhood in Riverside, $1,700. Okay, today, and I happen to know of one in an area where I live. It's $2,700 for a 2-bedroom. This is in Riverside. We're not talking like Orange County. It's almost like, granted, what's a 2-bedroom apartment in Orange County today? Irvine, you're probably $3,500, or maybe $4,000. But those rental values, homes, we do a lot of single family residential homes. Pre-COVID, 3-bedroom house in Moreno Valley, $1,500. You can't rent anything in Moreno Valley for $1,500. A 3-bedroom home in Moreno Valley, I got between $2,500 and $2,800, $2,900. I probably have a $3,000 a month 3-bedroom house in Moreno Valley.
Yeah.
Unheard of. Certainly 10 years ago. I only mention that because a lot of people, real estate values are going to suffer and we're going to see a crash. And by the way, the CAR number down 1%, whatever it was, big deal. But one of the reasons I don't believe that, I don't believe we're going to see any significant downward pressure on home values, is because the home rents, although it is cheaper to rent a home now than it is to buy, which makes the rental market attractive. But they're still expensive. It's still expensive. True.
And I investigated that personally because I had a house and I had to make a decision after a divorce to move from a 4-bedroom house into what, right?
Yep.
And in the end, I decided that looking at the monthly payments in terms of what I was qualified to have in terms of a house for myself, and the rent was basically the same.
Yeah.
So I live in Upland, and I can tell you that for a 2-bedroom apartment, the rent is $3,200.
Right.
And which is along the lines of what you said. But here's something I was going to ask you, actually, and it sort of involves a minor quiz.
Oh, no.
Looking
From the professor.
Looking at Riverside County, which is where we sit.
We've got to understand my education level. I'm one of those people you're talking about. So give it to me. I'm
and
ready.
Here it is. What do you think is the 4th largest city right now in terms of population in Riverside County? So we know Riverside is number 1.
Oh, wait.
Fontana is in San Bernardino County. And by the way, Fontana is about to become bigger than San Bernardino.
Well, it's funny. I said Fontana, and I realized immediately I'm in the wrong county because I just saw some data. It might have been your data. I just saw some data on the city, and I was surprised how big Fontana was.
Basically catching up to...
okay, so the 4th largest in Riverside, I should know, this is my world. So Riverside's number 1, I believe Moreno Valley is number 2. Marietta?
Close, but not.
Okay.
Really close, but not. So what would you say after Marietta? You would say Temecula.
I would have. It could be Menifee.
Exactly.
It could be, yeah. Well, by the way, I'm lost my orientation. Menifee. I mean, you're going to probably drive through Menifee to get back to the freeway on your way home. Yeah, it's funny you say Menifee because
I was stunned.
Well, you know what? And again, I should have been a little more thoughtful. I do these monthly market snapshots.
Yeah.
And every month I pick out a city, and I normally pick somewhere in the Southern California. So Menifee was one that I pulled up one day, and I was stunned. I was stunned by what have I been complaining about? Transaction volume.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If I was a smart realtor or lender or escrow or title, and ironically the office that I'm sitting in right now does business in Menifee, and I don't know whether they're smart or lucky, but if you did the data and said, if I'm going to do business in this area, where is the most number of transactions? I never would have guessed Menifee.
No.
And the volume in Menifee was pretty significant compared to everything else.
Absolutely.
Okay, so number 4?
No, it's Menifee is number 4.
Okay.
And what stunned me is so each one of those cities down there, which is Murrieta, Temecula, and Menifee, each one of them, and driving on the freeway, it's your.
Yeah. Well, you drive through it, it doesn't seem like there's much there.
No, you think it's actually the 3 are one, right?
Yep.
And so between the 3 of them, that's 300,000.
Yeah. So how did I do on the
stunning.
quiz? Okay, I don't count Fontana, so I was the wrong county. So it took me 3 guesses to get to
Yeah,
Menifee.
but
So I get a
you
C.
got what's the third one? There's Corona, right?
Okay.
But it's really those 3 that
Right.
that stunned me, and so that, and here's something else. Out of those 3 cities, Temecula, Murrieta, and Menifee, Murrieta and Temecula are still not at the same employment levels that they were in February 2020. They have not, whereas Menifee has gone above that and basically generated more employment than the other 2 lost, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that still a big baseline for you, the pre-COVID numbers? I mean, is that something that you're measuring?
I still look at that in terms of industries recovering. So we talked about this a long time ago.
Okay,
overall,
let's pick a fight with Thornburg. Okay, so you got the V. So part of your argument is if here we are 5 years removed, six years removed,
Yeah.
and we still haven't seen employment recover, well, then that's certain in your mind that's not a V.
we saw employment recover overall,
Right.
But that doesn't mean that every sector or every city has recovered, right?
Right.
And so the big drivers of recovering were health and logistics, right? Those were the big, and there are some other sectors that to this day have not recovered.
Yep.
Manufacturing, construction, and so forth, right? So that's where that sort
Well,
of.
I'm going to throw housing in there, but in a different spin. Right? And I'm not negative on it. Again, if you're thinking about buying or selling a houses, engage in the market, hire a real estate professional. We certainly can sell your house, and if you want to buy one, we can buy one. But in some ways, I was talking to Nick Manfredi. He's an investor. He was in this chair a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the great real estate crisis, 2006, 7, 8. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have all these foreclosures. And we were talking about when did the actual real estate, not just the real estate market recover? And again, we're very selfish about it. We're engaged in the market. We're not talking about for the average buyer or seller. We're talking about people who are actually in the business, make a living. And it didn't recover till like 2019.
Yeah.
It was now I think most people would have said, okay, yeah, we're kind of out of it in 2012 and 13 and 14 because we didn't have all the foreclosures, but we've seen a lot of just kind of value destruction. But as an operator, I just remember this is painful. I still took us 10 years to get out of it. So now here we are with COVID. So we go through the 2 year, which by the way, the exact opposite, because COVID for the real estate business was awesome. Okay, which sounds horrible. You got to qualify that. No, of course, COVID was horrible, but we panicked for 30 days, and then everybody's home. But then people are like, well, I'm home. Oh, and I can work from home, and I might be spending more time at home. So then all of a sudden,
And I may need an extra room.
and this value of home was crazy.
Yep.
So we went bananas, sold more houses, transaction volume was up, prices went bananas, which by the way, still a problem to this day. 20% appreciation in 2020, 20% appreciation in 2022 or 21, similar in 20. And I can remember sitting in this room saying, "Oh, this is not good." Everyone's like, "What do you mean it's not good? I just bought a house for $500 and now it's worth $600 a year later." Yeah, that's not good. Well, tell that person that they'd got an extra $100,000 in equity. That's not good. Well, of course it's good for that, but over the long term, it's a problem. So now we're kind of in this, and of course, hyperly suppressed interest rates, 3% or below. So now we're not in that market.
Yeah.
And now we look back at that market, And here we are, 2023, 2024, 2025. And this is where I'm kind of like, oh, the transaction volume part of the business is broken. And I just don't see anything in sight. Again, CAR says we're going to do, again, another 270,000 transactions. Yeah. That's $150,000 or 150,000 transactions fewer than pre-COVID.
I know, absolutely.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So another one of those indices that say, where are we?
And again, it's Chris Thornberg at the time, he was absolutely right in terms of what will happen to GDP output.
Yep.
And that was really V-shaped. It was like what, he may not have said it like that, turn off the lights and then switch it back on, you're back to where you were before, right? But there are all these other things, the churning of the industries, the change in education, right? That have had the ability to work from home, all of these things were major changes that did affect different industries in a different way, right?
Yep. Okay, let's do this. We're gonna wrap up, but I think I'm gonna wrap up in a lighthearted way, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it was right around the holidays. You sent me an article, and I think it was 25 good things or something that happened in California.
Yeah.
So I remember you texted it to me, and I saw the headline. I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting. I'm thinking like it's a forecast kind of thing. What's going on? Was it labeled 25 good things, or was it okay?
25 good because we're 2025.
So anyway, then I read it, and I realized pretty quickly, okay, this is not an economic thing.
No.
So what was the intent of that? It almost seemed to me like you were sending a message that, hey, I'm the chief economist with the Inland Empire Economic Partnership. You're a big shot at Claremont McKenna, right? I mean, that's your world. But the article didn't have much to do with economics at all. So were you sending me a message when you sent, or the world when you published that?
Yeah, I think the idea was, we complain every day about certain things that have happened, right? Why don't we look at good things that have happened? And, there are many good things that happened to us.
25 of them. I read the article.
Yeah. The Dodgers won the World Series. Right. And, and that was the idea, to sit back at the end of the year and on purpose, not focus on the bad things, such as California has the highest state unemployment rate and so forth. But to say,
there's a positive look.
Yeah,
when
and to do it in a lighthearted way.
I realized it today, and I hope, and forgive me, when you sent me that article, you put a little tagline in there. I hope you think number 10 is good. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. And you sent that to me, I think, around Christmas.
Yeah.
And I think I gave you a thumbs up or something like that. And I looked at it today, and I'm like, oh, crap, I didn't reply, or I didn't even realize you put, so I went and read number 10, and I think number 10 was we get the World Cup coming.
Yes.
So you're a soccer fan? You're a World Cup fan?
There's
football.
I'm German.
There's football, and then there's football.
Yeah, and
that's right.
And for those in the audience who don't understand football or soccer, there's a famous English forward, Gary Lineker, who played for Tottenham, which happens to be my team, and he said, soccer or football is very easy to explain. It's 22 men for 90 minutes running after a ball, and in the end, Germany wins.
Well, there you go.
So there I go. So that's
there's no bias there.
No,
that's right.
And of course we've got the World Cup coming next year.
Yeah,
but
exciting stuff.
To tell you the truth, I don't know if I can afford to go to one of the games.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at the ticket
The
price.
prices are just outrageous, right?
Yeah. Well, we have to make that happen.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to be all over SoFi and all the rest of that stuff. So,
Bank of America sponsors it, and I've got some contacts there. Who knows?
There you go. Well, Manfred, thank you so much.
It was good,
for coming in.
as always.
It's funny. I've been getting requests to bring you back live on stage. So we're now back on our March schedule. So where are we? 2026. Good Lord. Well, 2027 will be here before you know
try.
it. So we'll bring you back live, and we'll do it. So March 11th. If you don't already have your ticket, it's funny. We've been talking logistics. We are going back to Ido Benzivi's Highland Fairview World Logistics Center, east end of Moreno Valley. That's where we were last time. We're going back there March 11th. We're opening at 8:30. Program starts at 9. We'll get out of there by noon. So if you don't already have your ticket, click below. Manfred's entire deck that he did on on February 17th, which is a whole lot. And I also have Robert's deck. I can post that one as well.
Yeah.
Which that's the more national
Exactly.
number. So I'll have both of Manfred's latest slides. Look them up at Claremont McKenna College. And again, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
appreciate you. All right, we'll see you March 11th.